Welcome to Our Issues Birmingham and happy Sunday. I'm talking with John Archibald. John, welcome back. It's good to see you.
Good to see you, Tommy.
I take it you're at home.
I am. I'm in disarray, but I'm at home.
I am at home in what we call our music room, as you can see from what's behind me.
Yeah, you're kind of putting me to shame there, Tommy, but nobody's surprised by that.
Well, we recorded our past shows out of doors. However, Tolly was kind enough to bring me in after he saw what formed on my brow and elsewhere on my body, taping in 90+ degree temperatures. So congratulations are in order for you. You have now received yet another reward, an award, the Nieman Fellowship. Is that what it's called?
It is. It's one of those things that's big in my business, and I'm excited because it's essentially a school year at Harvard, which is sort of like has a Beverly Hillbilly sort of aspect to it.
It does.
Going to Harvard, none of my high school teachers, I guarantee you, would have ever seen that.
So I was wondering about that. When I read what I read in the what used to be called a paper, what's now called online, I saw that you had gotten this award, and I asked my wife, as a matter of fact, I said, it sounds like he's going to go off to school. Is that what happens?
It is. I'll be leaving right away. You can see the boxes are starting to pile up, and we'll be heading out. It officially begins September, but we'll be, my wife and I both will be going up imminently. And although a lot of the classes are virtual, there's a lot of other activities involved in it that we'll be involved in.
Well, tell me.
The cool thing about it is my wife is so excited because in addition to me being there, she gets to essentially audit any of the classes at MIT or Harvard, and so it's nice for both of us.
Are you living on campus, or do they provide you an apartment, or how does that work?
I have an apartment.
I know it's probably small.
It's still hard to talk about to just because it sounds so snooty. But yeah, we have an apartment on Harvard Square, and we'll be forced into immediate 14-day quarantine when we arrive.
And what exactly will a typical day in the life of a fellow be like?
I have no idea, other than, part of it is to focus on a project that I'm proposing, which is to look at how coverage of crime is done in the digital age, as opposed to and look in a historical context, and to see if the algorithms that always place those crimes in front of people first, which is what happens in a lot of ways, help to sort of widen the political divide and whether they create an atmosphere of fear. And I don't know what the answer will be, but I really am interested in looking at how crime is covered, how policing is covered in this day and age when it's so relevant.
What is this something you sought out, or did they seek you out?
It's something that I applied for. And and it's one of the few things that I sort of set out as a goal when I started. I wanted to do one of those, and I think the person most people around here might know most who did it earlier was Rick Bragg, but I'm told that he got in a fist fight while he was there. So I have a lot to live up to.
Well, I hope that. Just because I'm a pacifist, I hope that doesn't happen. So is it relevant to all the talk and events that are occurring in society today with policing and racial disparity that exist or that people are talking about more often today? Is it related to that?
Yes, that's what I mean. I made the proposal before that, but it's because I've been working on a couple of things. One is a book, and it deals with a lot of related issues. But the other is a podcast I've been working on the Bonita Carter killing from 1979, which really was the police shooting of a young black woman that really changed the politics in Birmingham.
Yes, I remember it well.
And doing both of those things, I've been in the archives a lot for the last 2 years, and have been looking at how crime was covered over the years, which was, in the good old days, it was bad. I mean,
the good old days weren't so good.
Right. So, I mean, there's been a lot of problems with the way crime has been covered over the years, a lot of the problems with the way race has been covered over the years. And so all of those things got me to sort of looking at them in a modern context, which is why I made that proposal in the first place.
Well, do you think that the way it has been reported has fostered the fear that you spoke of just recently?
Well, I don't think it's the reporting necessarily. I think the reporting now is probably better than it was through most of that history. The problem I have with it is that that we have these algorithms in the modern age, which means that for instance, you might have a client who is charged with assault or whatever, or say it was a particularly egregious one, and that gets a lot of readers. Tomorrow he might be, they might figure out he's the wrong guy. And so, no, it wasn't really him, but that first story, because it got so many views, might appear again on the page for weeks to come, or again in 6 weeks down the road as, Joe Smith committed this crime or was arrested for committing this crime, when in fact, it had already been determined that it wasn't him. So these algorithms continue to put the popular stories in front of people, whether without the context of what has happened later, or and just the fact that they are always put in front of people when other stories that might have more context or not.
Yeah. We're going to take a short break. What comes to my mind when you say what you just said is so much for the presumption of innocence. This is Our Issues Birmingham. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Our Issues Birmingham. I'm speaking with John Archibald. John, you're going off to Boston for a year. Will you still be allowed to do your column here for us to read? AL.com?
I will not for 9 months. I had to sign an agreement that I would concentrate fully on that, and my company has been great about it. And so I will still be employed. But while I'm in Boston, I'll be in Boston, and then I'll come back next May.
So, and you're leaving September, so there are a lot of people here in the local area that's probably glad to see you go.
That's right. A lot of people on the Zoom call might be glad to see me go.
Speaking of glad to see something go, COVID has affected everyone's lives in incredible ways, changed the dynamics of the way we do things. Some for the good. For me as a lawyer, some of the opportunities I have to make quick court appearances are great, but as far as human interaction, it's horrible, and I'm hopeful we don't go there. Do you see, to mask or not to mask, now we're getting mixed signals. It seems very simple to me that you just wear a mask, and then some people have taken it to a new level of politicizing. And some people, believe it or not, in my circle, still believe it to be a hoax. I just can't imagine why someone would think that. Can you shed some light on what your thoughts are regarding what's going on with
Yeah, I mean, and I'm coming from a place where, my wife has some immune issues, and so we're very careful around my house and feel the need to be. And let's face it, every family has, someone most families have someone, at least in their extended family, who fits that description. And I mean, it's very clear that wearing a mask, a conversation you hold between two people with a mask is much safer than one without. And how we can politicize the safety of our fellow Americans is remarkable to me. And that we waste our time doing that is counterproductive for the economy and for the health of our people. That is my opinion about it. And And you tape a few days earlier than your show, and the day I'm looking at today, Alabama has the second highest rate of coronavirus positives in the country. I mean, and for us to
rate of what? Rate of death?
Rate of positives
versus test.
Right. And so we all have to worry about the state of, there are many concerns, and and I think we should find a way to agree that we have to protect ourselves in order to protect our economy as well, because the longer this drags out, the more that doesn't work either. It's not one or the other.
Well, the most perplexing thing to me is that we're stuck here. We are, for once in our lives, not allowed to leave this country. And that in and of itself is a hard thing for people to get their head around. Do you think, this is maybe outside of your job description, but you have
that never stopped me.
No, do you have a prediction on where this is going to take us come November 3rd? Is it too soon to say?
I don't. I really don't. I will believe it when I see it at this point. Things change so rapidly in this environment and this year. Nobody knows anything from one week to another, it seems like to me. Whether we started out in March saying, it's going to be over by the 27th, and then 1 week everybody's wearing masks and everybody's on board, and the next week they're not. Next week, we're having protests. And so I can't even say. And, in the presidential election, you're asking me to predict? Lord, I have no idea. I don't think anybody does. I don't know that, I get bashed for bashing polls because I think some people see it as me being anti-science, which I'm not. But I think it's very difficult to do an accurate poll in this day and age. Certainly more difficult than when we all had landlines that you could call and people would pick up. So I don't. And if you look at 2016, I don't think the polls were accurate either. So
obviously.
So I'm just going to believe it when I see it. And I think that everybody just needs to vote their own mind and conscience, and without worrying so much about the predictions.
It will be an interesting next 3 months, to say the least.
What about you? You got a prediction?
I have a hope, but I'm going to not express it. I don't think it's really that hard to predict where my head is, but I try, for purposes of the FCC and staying middle of the road, I try not to make this show political.
I think that's a good idea.
It's the safe way to go. Obviously, I have political people on the show, infrequently, but on occasion.
Well, it's not going to matter, though. People will make it political, whether you do or not.
I know, but friendships are being ruined.
Yes, they are.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back. Don't go away. We got one more segment. This is Our Issues Birmingham. Don't go away. Welcome back to Our Issues Birmingham. John Archibald. I can't even believe that my friend Taylor Hicks decided to take a shot at you. Taylor, who's a good friend of mine. I call him a friend. I call him a fellow golfer, a fellow musician, a caring individual. Apparently is glad to see you to be going to Boston. What happened? What did I miss?
I wouldn't characterize it that way. I wrote a column that was essentially lamenting the question, was asking the question whether Southern hospitality is on its deathbed. It was in the wake of the lawmaker who, the state school board member who said Kay Ivey was gaining weight, and in the wake of a number of kind of rude comments that people made. And so I asked that question, and my whole conclusion was that common decency is needed. And he just responded with "I can always leave," which A, I get a lot, and B, I don't know if it was a shot. He was just he can express his opinion like everybody else.
Well, I'm a native Alabamian. People do have a warped perception of what we are like down here. All in all, Alabama's not such a bad place. We are a bit on the right side of things, and I don't mean as opposed to wrong, and that would be an understatement. We have a very contested senatorial race coming up that seems to be running down the middle. I'm not sure where it is. Do you have any insight into where you think that may fall?
I don't really. I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think. And I do think anything can happen. I want to say, I love Alabama a lot, and I love the South a lot. But we have a terrible history of racism and oppression, and we have a terrible history of denying people the right to vote, and we have done a lot of things wrong. And I think that we should do everything we can in our power to fix those things. And if we don't do the things in our power to fix those things, and we just sit around and ignore the things that bring us down, then we are complicit in whatever wrongs are going on. And that is my whole point. And if we are to leave, if we don't like the way things are, then nothing ever gets fixed. And that's my point there. And the same thing is true of the race, as you talk about coming up. I mean, if people want to change things, they start at the ballot.
But that divide that you just spoke of is not unique to Alabama. I think if anything has come from recent occurrences, it's the fact that it's prolific and everywhere.
Right, absolutely. We know now that it's not just Alabama. Much of the country feels exactly the same way. But, the thing about hospitality is, we wear it we put it on our placard. And, if you run a restaurant and you put on your marquee that you have the best soup, you better have some pretty good soup, right? But if you, and it's just like us, if we claim that what it is that makes us different is our hospitality and our kindness, let's show it.
Yeah.
Let's show it to everybody.
Yeah, we smile, we speak to each other on the street, in the elevators. We don't just stare at the elevator door. We're inclined to be nice.
And I would say that, I always find my faith in humanity restored in people, in real people, when I meet and talk to people in a way that I don't expect to, when I'm not, going to ask specific questions, and the serendipitousness of just meeting new people, and whether I agree with them or disagree with them or vice versa has nothing to do with it. I'm always restored by people who are just kind, and so don't get me wrong on that. And I do think that in this day and age, when we are more isolated than ever, and when we are digitally obsessed, the worst parts of us tend to bubble to the surface, rather than when we're one-on-one talking with each other.
I think I get the sense that people are beginning to recognize the obsession of the digital world a little bit.
But what do you do about it?
I've referred to it as an energy vampire. It's just like the mask. Either you get off of it, either you wear a mask, or you stay on it, or you don't wear a mask. I mean, it's an individual decision that has to be made by that individual for the reasons that make their existence a happy existence. But we see a lot of hatred coming out of people. And I do believe that COVID brain is a real thing.
Me too.
And I've read some stuff about COVID brain, and people are reacting in ways that they would never react, but for the fact that we're being put in a petri dish, for lack of a better expression, and hoping that we don't develop into some virus.
Right.
inside of our brain.
I completely agree with that. But yeah, and perhaps I'm a little sensitive to it as someone I've been doing this a long time and have gotten every form of hate mail that ever lived. And not to make it about me, but I mean, you have to judge your world by what you hear from it. And I've never seen it as vicious and as constant as it is now. Still the same ratio, and it's a small ratio, but it's more vicious than ever.
Yeah, and it seems to, like the sewer systems, it seems to run downhill.
Yeah, it runs downhill over me.
Thanks for being with us. Are you going to get to take your dogs to Boston with you?
I'm not. My son is going to be, he gets the house while I'm gone, but he has to keep the dogs.
I know he'll miss you. Thanks for being with us, John. It's great talking to you as always. Please stay in touch. We may reach out to you while you're up there.
Great.
This is Our Issues Birmingham. We'll see you next week.